Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would film the process of me printing. So I have already done the carving portion of this print here. So this is going to be my always late print. And I've already done the test prints for it, but today is the day that we are doing the final print for it, or at least the first edition, because you may notice if you look at my work, I love to play about with paper stocks because I think that they can add a real difference to the print. So this one, frustratingly, I actually have some cotton rag paper, which is just like a slightly bit too small for it. So I'm going to do a test for it and see if they do any sort of like A3 square paper, so 297 by 297, because that's what I'm going to ultimately have this printed at. Because also, again, something else that I really like to do is make sure that prints are like fairly easy to frame. Whilst I do love a fun aspect ratio, I was recently in Copenhagen and I went to a woodblock exhibition in the design museum there, and they had a bunch of Japanese Edo period woodblock prints, and again, super fun aspect ratio if you like consider standard stuff. But ultimately, I think a big consideration that comes into people buying prints essentially is to do with stuff like aspect ratio. So I try my best to look at reasonably priced frames that you can find that can house my prints. And with this one, you can use a vinyl frame, which you can get. I've even seen them in pound shops. So super duper easy. And obviously you can get really nice ones depending on what your budget is in regards to framing, or, you know, get down to IKEA, Dunelm, whatever works for you. I'm a big advocate for Dunelm frames, and also Wilko frames. Gone but not forgotten is Wilko, but I think it's now back online. Anyway, we digress. Before we get started, let's run down the specifics of this print for me today. So I don't know if you're able to see from the remnants of the test prints, I am using 3 separate inks on one piece of lino. So I'm not doing like a jigsaw or reduction print with this one. This one is just one and done, but has 3 components to it. So you actually can't see slightly out of frame. I've already should have known that was going to happen. I have 3 inks all rolled out and good to go. So I've got a silver. This is actually a water-based ink. Specifically this one. This is the SD block printing ink. And as mentioned, this is water-based. Annoyingly, I think when I got it, the top was split, but I've kept hold of it. So that's why there's loads of masking tape on the top. And then for the black, I am using the Cranfield Safe Wash Black. Easy peasy. And then I'm also doing a red, which is Namthol Red, also Cranfield Safe Wash inks. But yeah, they're all kind of hiding down here, all rolled out, good to go. So as I said, I've already done like a test day, so I'm happy with everything, and I've made the adjustments that I wanted to make, so I've gotten rid of a bit more noise. For me personally and stylistically, I quite like noise on a print, like maybe not as much as when back in the day when I did my Koi Boy print, when that really was so much noise on a print. Like maybe I'm not doing so much because I also really enjoyed the use of negative space in prints, but I have got rid of some of it. But if some comes out on the final print, so be it. I know I mentioned earlier about using cotton rag paper like that for this printing process. I think some people would argue it's not suitable because it adds like a real like rough and ready quality to it, but I think that could lend itself quite nicely to certain prints, including this one. But I am also going to do it with some 200 or 300 GSM. I do have already some test paper good to go. So I've got literally a piece of my Stendig calendar, which I don't even know what GSM this is, but maybe 80. And then I've got 2 pieces of 200 GSM. It's slightly textured. It's from, I can literally show you where it's from. It's from my GCSEs. My mum gave me this. She was clearing out like a cupboard or something, and she was like, I've got a whole, it's like basically empty. I had like a few notes in and stuff that are long gone out of it that I binned, but actually the paper is still fine, definitely to do test prints on. Without further ado, I've been yakking for 5 whole minutes. Wow, how do I manage that? But yeah, let's get to printing. Okay, so you can't see my face, but I thought you'd rather see this. I actually had to go out and buy another roller to fit this print. So this is the biggest one. So the reason that I'm using 2 different types of ink is, honestly, I already had the silver. And whilst I do have a red and a black water-based ink, I don't know, I've been really enjoying using oil-based inks. I feel like I've spoken before online about my trauma, my GCSE trauma of using oil, like an oil-based solid thing, and I've kind of gotten over that now. I was thinking about buying the silver because Cranfield do have a silver, it is an oil based, but it's not part of their safe wash range. And just because I do everything at home and I don't have like industrial cleaner, I am very hesitant to start using the non-safe wash ones. Like I know they're not also still not ideal to go down the sink anyway, but I think that it's just best to, yeah, as I said, use the safe wash ones. I think they're better. Again, I do try and like scrape things off and clean things and keep it out of the waterways as much as possible. But ultimately, I'm still working from a home studio. So doing that, I think makes the most sense for me. Don't have that in their safe wash range. What a fun angle. So this is now all inked up, and I think the first one I'm gonna just do it by hand, and I'm gonna do it using just a bamboo baron and that 80 GSM paper, just to kind of get a feel for it. I do have a manual press, which you shall see shortly. I have been looking into like rotary presses, as in the ones where you can just spin a wheel and it's done, usually done for I guess more intaglio printing, but I also think particularly if you're doing like reduction prints, that's like so much easier on you. But all that to say, I do also really like, I guess, like the physicality in printing. I do, you know, love that part of, I guess, specifically lino, but indeed silkscreen too, that, you know, it's really like done by hand and done by person. And obviously there are techniques that can help speed up the process, make it more efficient. And I like that. But finding something that is easy so I can do more prints is also kind of helpful. So I've gotten those couple first prints out the way. I like to do that for two main reasons. One, get my wiggles out. I feel like, particularly when you're filming as well, like I get so like nervous and in my head about the print itself and the first one being perfect. But, you know, taking myself out of that situation, of course I know it's not going to be perfect, because the first couple, you need the ink to kind of really like become one with the lino. So obviously the more that you print, the reality is there's going to be more residual ink left on there, so you can get more of a clean print. And this I know, but I still sometimes put the stress on myself to have my first one be perfect, but that's not the reality of the situation. Is it, Alice? Anyway, so I've got those first couple ones out the way, got my wiggles out the way, and I'm happy with everything. I did get rid of a little bit more noise on the end. I'm finding that it's only really the red that is, I don't want to say creating an issue, but coming up, which is fine. As I said before, like it's not something to me that is an issue in the final print, because I do like having that almost like human touch and human error. And I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, but like why I like printmaking is I feel it's almost like the socialist medium of fine art, because you don't use that individuality, particularly because each print is different, but also if you like something, there's enough to go around. You can make enough for everybody. And isn't that fantastic? Anyway, that's literally not what I came to sit here and talk to you about, but maybe that's for another video. But what I did want to talk to you about is, initially I was thinking about just doing this on, I forget if I have 200 or 300 GSM ready to rock and roll in like standard A3 paper stock, like the Goldilocks of paper, if you would. It's a lot more smooth and like I think is a lot more versatile, whether we're looking at screen printing or whether we're looking at lino, or indeed, I mean with Riso you can't go that high GSM, but anyway, I'm full of tangents today. But I do have some cotton rag paper. They do two different weights of it, but also they do plenty of different sizes. So this one here is 210 by 210, so essentially like an A4 piece of paper square, which if you have noticed with this print, that is initially actually what I was like aiming to do, but ultimately when I did my test prints I realized that actually I think I should do it in 297 by 297, so A3 squared. So there's like a good border in it. That's something I really like in prints, and like in my prints as well, is having a good amount of negative space around it. And then I always find that when you put a frame around it, specifically a black one, like I don't know if you've ever noticed behind me and on my walls, every single one of my frames is black. It doesn't matter what room it's in. Like sometimes I feel like you don't think of the frame as part of the artwork, but actually I think it really can make a difference. Like particularly if you go to like an old gallery or something and you see like a Renaissance painting, look at the frames. Sometimes they are so ornate and fantastic. They're a piece of art in themselves. But I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a Dunelm frame girly, but do love a good black frame. I'm getting distracted. What I'm trying to say is I feel like it almost looked a bit too crowded being right up to the edge with the 210. But all that to say, I do have some of this. So I'm going to sacrifice one and print it and see, even if this is something that I want to pursue. I do have some A3 sheets of this, but what's a bit frustrating about this paper is it, as you can see, it's got this really lovely beveled edge on it. And would be a quality that I would want to keep. I think that also like adds to this paper. Again, if you wanted to frame it, you could frame it in like a glass frame so that you can still see that, and then it has like a bit of it poking out. All my walls are white, so it can still like work, and then also to have like the, you know, you can get like a black metal frame around it. I think could look really nice, and I think that those type of frames really lend themselves to this type of paper stock. What is frustrating about this paper, and what I would say is a downfall, is it's really hard to rip this beveled edge. I must admit, I don't know if they make this paper in these sizes and this is just kind of the size of the paper rather than it being an added on texture afterwards, like for example ripping it. My croc print I have done in this paper and this paper stock, and I really struggled to like rip it. I thought I could just rip it in, it would kind of give like a similar edge, but actually it doesn't. And those I've ended up cutting, so you don't have this beautiful beveled edge, which I think would be a shame, because I also feel like that's part of the charm of the paper stock itself anyway. I don't know if you can see this one in particular, it is not perfectly square. Like this side here is a little bit at an angle, like it's not a perfect 90 degrees, which some people would hate that. And I can understand that, but not me. I think that'd be a super fun and different thing to add to the print. So all that to say, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just one more print, sort of, I guess, before I get like a bit more of a rhythm going. And I'm going to print on this and see if I want to do this. I will have a look and see if this company does 297 by 297. Again, I can't see that they wouldn't. I might actually get this in the lesser weight as well. I think that might work better. But as I said, they do 2 different weights. So we'll have to wait and see. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and print that and see how I feel about it. And again, if it's not perfect first time around, that's fine. But if it's kind of like given the vibe that I want, I'd be willing to invest in that extra paper stock and to do probably realistically a smaller run. I probably stick with the same colours as well. But anyway, I think, again, that's what's also fun with prints, is that you can do additions and that you can continue to explore how you feel and like explore different things like colour changes, paper stocks, right up to the point in which you're printing it. You can always obviously add stuff in, take stuff away. But yeah, anyway, let's print this and see how I feel about it. I'm sorry, this is an absolute tangent, but I've just had a package arrive, which I am very, very excited about. It has absolutely nothing to do with printing, but I just think it's cool. So, seeing as I was filming, I thought I'd show you. Give me 2 ticks. Let me just open it. I'm so excited. Oh my god. They're brilliant. Here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. So a little bit of a backstory. Back in June, I went to Dublin. Sorry, I just feel like I need to show them off. I went to Dublin for a couple of days because my partner was working there. So I was like, free trip to Dublin. Okay. I say free. I obviously paid for the flights, paid to get there. But stuck in and out of the hotel. Anyway, as part of that, as you may gather from what I'm waving in front of you, we went to... Oh, sorry, these are so cool. We went to the Guinness storehouse and their museum and stuff, and they have a section in there which is all about like their advertising and merchandising, which I think Guinness have done really well. Like I remember their adverts, like the horse, like the stallions, like running and stuff like that, and I'm like, is that really a way to talk about a stout? I don't know, but I think they clearly put a lot of thought and process into that. And one of the things that they had just like on display was that they had these 3 Guinness toucans, like, you know, you have those like pigs flying on the wall and like stuff like that, and I just thought they were so cool. Anyway, I was hoping that they sold them still in the shop, because I'm like, who wouldn't want these on their wall? And anyway, I've just been on an eBay hunt ever since June, and somebody put them up, and now they're mine. And I'm going to tell you how much. I paid £35, which is like, what, £11.50 each for them? Oh my God. I must admit, like, they're bigger than I remember. Oh my God, they're like made of cast iron. Like, listen, not that I'm planning on doing this, but if you wanted to write like a whodunit, these could absolutely, like, you know, forget the billiards room and the candlestick. Get your Guinness toucan. Is that inappropriate? I don't know. Anyway, I just thought they were really cool. Absolutely nothing to do with today, but they came today. Look at these! I mean, but also, I would argue these are artwork, you know? Like, these are going to go up on my wall. You see that I've got, I mean, like, I guess, linking it back, circling back. As you might be able to see, I do actually have a kitty cat clock in the background. Kitty cat clock. Look, these are going to go probably next to it. Oh my God, absolutely sick. I am chuffed to bits. Made up with these. Oh, eBay, never change. I mean, we have some developments. So, as you can see, the print is not that clear. And obviously, I did this by hand and I do have a press, but ultimately, I find that it wouldn't make that much of a difference. And I think it's just maybe potentially a bit too textured. And I've had a look also, because, you know, I mentioned obviously about getting the right size. They don't have the size and the lesser GSM, like the lighter weight, in the size that I want. They do this one in 30 by 30, and they do A3 in the lighter paper stock, but they don't do the 30 by 30 in the lighter paper stock. So I think, at least for now, I'm just going to continue ahead with my standard Goldilocks paper and crack on with that. So this is the paper stock that I have, which is 300 GSM. So I have this because I did some screen printed prints, and I find this paper, this is by hand printed, I have some of those already set up because I was going to do a bigger edition of this test print that I'm doing just to try out reduction printing on a larger scale, but I quickly decided with that one, like, that's like a lot of effort. At this point, I actually need to decide how big I'm going to be making it. Like, how big do I want this edition to be? I usually do, for a lino, I will do between 10 and 15. I think I might stick with 10. So usually what I'll do is have set up for 12, because, you know, the reality is there's going to be one or two that don't print how I want to and aren't at the standard that I want them to be. Ultimately, sometimes I'll then do an edition of 12 if all turn out great. But if I need to then print an extra one because 9 out of 12 of them turned out the way that I wanted them to, then that's cool too. Cool, let's set that up. Okay, so it's a couple days later, my prints are now dry and it is time to trim them. I do have a less, quite frankly, intimidating trimmer just for like little bits and bobs. I think I got it from Hobbycraft, but this one, she's hardcore. So particularly when you've got like your thicker paper stocks, and also like that one's like really is small. So if I'm doing like an A6 print, then that's fine off of like smaller paper, but this one can take up to A3. And what I've also gone ahead and done is use this already and cut out an A3 square piece of tracing paper. The reason that I'm using tracing paper, this is actually my test print, but the reason why I'm using tracing paper is obviously so I can see the center of the design and make sure that I can make myself just some little marks. I've got a pencil here, just to make sure that it's all good to go, and then I can sign them and then we'll be done with this edition. What I will say, whilst I was printing these the other day, I do think I'll be able to show you. What's funny, this one actually was one of my test prints, and you might be able to see I completely forgot to re-ink the cat's face. I am actually half tempted to paint it, so then and just keep that one for myself. But anyway, so these are my test ones, but these are the real deals. As you might be able to see, there's like quite a bit of sort of noise and fluctuation in the print. And I was chatting to my partner about this, and I was like, oh, you know, maybe I will just like cover a little bit in with just like a paintbrush and the same ink, and he was like, no, like that's what makes those prints cool, is the fact that you can see it, and there's some where it's more than others and I'm still in two minds about it, but I do hear what he's saying. But a large part, I think that's because of the paper stock. So if you remember, I was like, oh, I have some 200 GSM. I didn't. I ran out of the 200 GSM in this size that I use, so I printed on the 300, and I think in part that is why it's less. See, like, I don't know if you'll be able to see with this one, for example, it is quite a sort of lighter impression than what I would like. But yeah, so I am a bit in two minds about whether I should just go get some 200 GSM and then do another run of them. And maybe I would do them in different colours, I don't know. But anyway, whilst we're here today, this is magnetic. This is so cool. Sorry. I'm still learning things about this trimmer. So it's got like a guard. Now, unfortunately, because I'm going all the way to the end for the A3, it doesn't clip on, but you can clip this guard on, right? And it's got a magnet, so on the other side, it sticks to where you want it to be. So smart, so smart. But unfortunately, I can't use it. I just noticed it's called Elite, and I would say this one is. Anyway, I'm getting distracted as per usual. So what I'm going to do is, before I get to trimming, I think I might just go through every single one and mark down the lines and then trim them. Okie dokie. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, I've drawn like a little X inside the tracing paper to show me where the middle is. I know that this design, because I did initially do it partially on the computer, should be pretty central with the nose. Oh, actually, maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my cutting mat, BRB. What is great about using the cutting mat, it shows that I can sort of see where the lines are, and so I know that this is perfectly straight. So then when I line this up, it will also be perfectly straight. So I've got it lined up just down here. So this is ever so slightly off center. Like, I am talking, in fact, I've got a ruler right here so I can tell you how much off center it is. It is 3 millimeters off center. So do you know what? I'm just going to keep it as it is. I would rather have it slightly off center, but be able to keep it at a size that I know would be able to be easily framed. Again, because this is handmade and hand printed, and I also think specifically the design, if it's not perfect, I'm not too worried. So that was 5 centimeters, and that's more or less 5. Perfect. Great. So I am happy with where that is. What I might do is, I've actually taken the registration tabs off, so I might just quickly tape that down so I know it's not going to go anywhere. I can actually just draw a tiny little line there and a tiny little line there, so I know exactly where I need to cut. Easy peasy. So I'm going to do that for the rest of them, and then we can get to actually cutting them. Okay, so I've done a test one. This one was slightly off center, and obviously I've just realized and then I'd probably have to bring the sides in to make it perfectly square. But do you know what? I took off 2mm, so I think we're going to be okay. I do have another test one here though, so I might do that one now. And what I've just realised, and why you should absolutely do your test ones first, is you feel like you're almost at like the final frontier. I mean, at least I do. I've got like the last little bit that I need to do other than signing it, but that kind of is fine. This is, I think, the last time where it can really go wrong, or you can ruin it. And in large, I think it's about going too fast. And so, I don't want to do that. Where is it? I don't see the mark. Oh, there it is. So yeah, I've got, you can't see it, but there's like this like hard bit here that doesn't move. And obviously is perfectly straight. So I know that if I obviously lean up against this, this should then be a perfect right angle, which it looks like it is. Now this one does need a little bit of a trimming. So now obviously I've finished all of them. I know that there's one that is like, I think I've got to take off 5mm, which is like quite a bit, but that should be fine. Ta-da! Little test one, which I think overall, again, I had to take a little bit, but then see, oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. Where's my ruler? So I have just done the maths and I'm looking at it again, and I don't know if this is just me, like I'm looking at it and it doesn't look centered. Again, as I said, if it's not absolutely perfect, I think truly that's part of the charm. A machine's not doing it, I am, and I'm doing it by eye. But also, you know, measure twice, cut once. Do you know what? Like, I think like this is like one of those principles, oh, I forget what it's called, in typography, where things, if they're actually perfect, look off center. What is that? It's like to do with like when you're making a typeface. Oh, that's really going to bother me. Hold on. Overshoot. It's called overshoot. Oh, that was bothering me so much. I've been sat here longer than you think. So essentially in typography, you have something called an X height, where essentially if you have a lowercase x, most definitely flat type doesn't exceed the X height. But then you have an overshoot with something like an O, which is curved, or like an E, and the bottom ever so slightly, if you actually got a ruler out and measured it, you would see that it went lower and was bigger than the X, but it makes the optical illusion that it's the same size. And part of me thinks, obviously, because this is circular, that might be the issue. Because I've measured the X height of both, like from the center, and the X height of the T and the W, because they're sort of the most central of the letters, and they match, and it all matches. And obviously this W does have a little bit of a funky curve. I think I'm thinking too much into this. I honestly was like a dog with a bone. I was like, I know that this is called something. I know that I have to look into this. But anyway, there we go. There we have it. I think I am just going to keep cutting them the same size. And if it really, really, really bothers me, then I can shave off a couple millimeters from the top, and I still think it would frame well. Okay, that one I prefer. That one I feel better. Maybe I was just staring at it for too long, the original one. But I'm happy with that. What's great also about, obviously, this trimmer, I feel like I'm just bigging up the Swordfish Elite 420 paper trimmer. But obviously this isn't new. A lot of them have measurement lines on it, so once I've cut the top of one of them, I can just measure the other one. But I did think it was prudent just to mark out both lines when I did it, just in case. And obviously there's some that I'm planning to trim a little bit. Oh, I am happy with these. Oh, look at this. Ah! I think that's come out so cute. I do want to, either today or tomorrow, nip out and grab a frame for these, because I find, particularly work that has like a lot of negative space, i.e. my work in particular, when it's unframed, it almost kind of looks like it should be trimmed smaller. And I feel like without the frame, it doesn't look as good. So when I'm going to obviously take photos of this to pop on my website, I want to have a frame on it, because also that's the reality of what people are going to do with it as well. You know, like when you buy food and it's got like serving suggestion, on the side. It's the same concept. I need to give people the serving suggestion of how to sort my prints out. Anyway, I am going to continue trimming these and then wrap this video up. I could sign them today as well. Oh my God, this has been such a quick turnaround for me. Honestly, I'm such a procrastinator, but when you're filming it, it's... Sorry, as soon as I stop speaking because I'm making sure it's all measured out properly. But yeah, exciting. Okay, I'm gonna carry on doing this. See you in a sec. Alrighty, well that is everything from me and this little guy. I will acquire a frame and overlay how this guy looks in it. Thank you ever so much for joining us on our printing journey together. I know that this isn't the most cleanest print in the world, but honestly, I feel like that fits the subject matter of kind of being a little bit messy and being not perfect. It kind of all ties in quite well. Anyway, we're all done. As I said, thank you ever so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and do let me know if you like this type of video. Obviously, I didn't share the carving process with this one, but it's definitely something I'd be happy to do with you, whether I do a collection or an edition of a print. If sort of this type of video of me kind of talking through why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. If that is of interest to you, let me know, or indeed what other type of videos you'd like to see from me. But until then, I shall see you again soon. Bye! See, I've already waited too